then to our dean.
Hello, I just tweeted that they may look like normal students attending an event, but they're really zombies. And that's why they can give me this high five. Zombie parks. I heard one other thing on my way over here. I heard that, I don't know if this is a biological or a chemical antidote to extreme zombieism, but I heard that snow kills zombies.
Temperature, yes.
Temperature kills zombies, so it's scientific fact.
That's fact.
That's a fact. So welcome to this event. I'd like to thank the faculty and the biology club for getting us together. It fits my vision for college. We work hard, but we have some fun. So let's have some fun this afternoon and let's learn something. And I'm going to tweet a couple more times at Claremont D. So if you want to see what's going on, we welcome you. Who's next?
President.
Madam President, keep calm and kill zombies.
Thank you. Okay. We have two people who put this presentation together, Dr. Green and also his friend Sean Gibbs, who is a professor with the University of Nebraska Medical Center's Department of Environmental, Agriculture, and Occupational Health in the College of Public Health. Currently, he serves as the College of Public Health's Associate Dean for Student Affairs. Dr. Gibbs received a BS in biology from The Ohio State University and both the MS in environmental science and a PhD in environmental engineering, both from the University of Cincinnati. He received his MBA in the University of Nebraska in 2012. He became a certified industrial hygienist in 2009. Sean was a U.S. Fulbright faculty scholar to Egypt in 2006. Dr. Gibbs' research areas is environmental exposure assessment, focusing on environmental microbiology. Dr. Gibbs is the author of over 60 peer-reviewed articles and a certified zombie expert. Okay, and now on to Professor Green, who is an assistant professor with the University of Cincinnati Claremont College. Previously, he served as a research assistant professor at UC's College of Engineering, where he specialized in bioaerosols, UV radiation, and environmental microbiology. Dr. Green received a BA in biology from the Thomas More College in Crestview Hills, Kentucky, and both a MS in environmental science and a PhD in environmental engineering, both from the University of Cincinnati. Dr. Green is the author of over 30 peer-reviewed articles and is also a certified zombie expert.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming out here. I want to thank those of you that tried to come to the October 31st presentation. I'm truly thankful that I can come back here and actually finally give this. Also, again, on behalf of my colleague, the Dean, Dr. Sean Gibbs, we thank you. Quick outline of what we're going to do. First off, I know you're eating pizza, so there are going to be some gory images. I just want to warn you, I don't want you spilling your pizza back up on the table, so be careful. We're going to talk a little bit about the zombies, a little bit of introduction of what they are and why they're so popular. And I know a lot of you are asking what makes us certified zombie experts. We'll talk about why I'm a zombie expert. Then talk about how one becomes a zombie. Well, I've identified 6 different ways the zombie apocalypse could happen. And we're going to talk about some that are unlikely and some that are more likely. And then now that we'll be acquainted with how the zombie apocalypse will happen, we'll talk about how to prepare and survive the zombie apocalypse. And finally, because nothing kills people more like panic, I want to assure you that it's no time to panic and be worried about zombies, and that's how we're going to finish the talk today. Afterwards, we will have plenty of time for questions. No matter how many questions you want, I'll try to answer every single legitimate question, at least half of the ridiculous questions. Save them all for the end so we can get through this. Some people have classes too, and I want to make sure I talk relatively quickly, so we're getting a little bit late to start. And anybody wants to stick around, we have about 15 minutes of zombie trivia. We can have upwards of 20 people playing. There will be a prize. You will love the prize. It's a very good prize you want to stick around for. So up to 20 people can test their mettle with zombie trivia if you want to stick around and do it. Anyway, what is a zombie? We're going to talk a little bit about Max Brooks. He was the author of of basically the Zombie Survival Guide, the Bible for surviving zombies. 2003 Zombie Survival Guide. He's also the author of World War Z. The zombie is a reanimated human corpse that feeds on human flesh. This is kind of the classic Night of the Living Dead zombie, a true undead organism that came back to life. But we'll also talk about the only zombies that have ever really existed so far on the planet. That's the zombies that have come from voodoo, real voodoo rituals. We'll talk about them. And we'll talk about the new so-called fast zombies, the biologically infected zombies from things like 28 Days Later. Anyway, why the fascination with zombies? They're all over the place, they're all over TV, and they're all over the movies. If you had $150,000 and wanted to go to Berkeley, you could actually have a class on zombies. Lecturer Marina Levine, I don't know why I don't do this, suggests that the increase in zombie movies simply has to do with the fear of 9/11, post-terrorist 9/11, and that the 50s and 60s zombie movies coincided with the fear of communism. We also have a quote from George Romero, the grandfather of all zombie movies, who said similar things. And this kind of makes a point. For any of these zombie movies, the zombie isn't really the bad guy. The zombie is a force of nature that we have to deal with, like a hurricane or a tornado. And the real monster is us. So that's a good theory. But really, the reason the zombies are terrifying is because they're the last real monster movie creature that can really terrify you. You can't be terrified of vampires or werewolves. Even people that are fans of this genre, and God bless them, they're out there. Even if you're fans of the the werewolf and the vampire genre, you're not really scared of a vampire or werewolf. If anything, you want to be a vampire or a werewolf, or at least sleep with a vampire or werewolf. Are you really scared of that? Are you scared of abs? Are you scared of glistening in the sun? No, I'm not. I actually hate that my Google search now has Twilight abs in the search line. So anyway, but you're not scared of that. No, that's terrifying. That's terrifying. It's disgusting and terrifying. That's terrifying. Because I really fear clowns, that's even more terrifying. You can't be scared of vampires. You certainly can't be scared of werewolves, but you can be scared of zombies. So that's why they're popular. Now, what makes me a zombie expert? I know a lot of people in the audience are fans of zombies, and they all think, I'm a zombie expert. This guy can possibly know more about zombies than I can. So what makes me a zombie expert? It's not because I've seen more than my fair of zombie movies, but that helps. I have seen the good zombie movies, and I have seen the great zombie movies. I have seen the cult classics like Evil Dead and The Reanimator. We grew up on that stuff. I saw the movies that sadly missed the mark. Zombie movies that just weren't that good. I saw the zombie movies that were just so terrible they never ever should have been made. I sat through, anybody seen that one? You've seen a lot of it. A lot of you've seen a lot. It's horrible, isn't it? I've actually sat through the first zombie movie ever, the 1932 black and white schlock fest called White Zombie. In this case, the zombies were part of a voodoo ritual. So White Zombie, 1932, the first zombie movie. I also sat through a lot of foreign zombie movies. So if you can stand subtitles, you can actually watch some pretty good movies, including one of my favorites, Dead Snow. I think it's Norwegian, so if you can stand with Norwegian and subtitles, I suggest checking out Dead Snow. I do not suggest checking out the 1979 movie Zombie. That's an Italian crap fest. But because I sat through it, I was able to see the ultimate battle of shark versus zombie. Okay, in this case, who wins? It's the zombie. Shark versus zombie, and the zombie wins that one. But listen, watching all these movies does not make me a zombie expert. I also helped found my own anti-zombie militia. Okay, this is our Christmas card. This is us preparing for the zombie apocalypse. Again, making your own anti-zombie militia does not make you a zombie expert. It certainly helps. It also certainly helps that you train for it. Here's the anti-zombie militia after a 5K obstacle run where actual zombies chase you as you're hurtling over obstacles and running up and down hills. The people over here on the right, I'd say, were infected. They were killed and caught by zombies, and the ones on the left here were actually survived, and that's me over here on the left. I know you're looking at me. I don't look like I have endurance or speed. How did I survive? I literally used my infected wife as a human body shield. But if you're going to survive the zombie apocalypse, you have to make the hard decisions. Also, if anybody likes exercising, I can also recommend the Zombies Run app. Nothing gets you motivated, gets your heart racing like virtual zombies that are chasing you from behind. So I can recommend that as well. But again, forming my own zombie militia, seeing just about every zombie movie ever, and practicing for the zombie militia does not make you a zombie expert. What makes you a zombie expert is having a degree in zombie defense. If you want to know, here is me with my degree in zombie defense, and here's my partner here, want to know what Dr. Gibbs looked like. I know what you're thinking. Do I have to spend $50,000 to get a zombie degree? It really depends. There's a lot of people in this room with degrees. You have a degree, right? What's your degree in?
Marketing.
Marketing? Where?
Northern Kentucky University.
If you decide you want a marketing degree from Northern Kentucky University, the best thing to do is save that 50 grand, put it into a nice SUV. But this actually isn't a marketing degree. This is actually a degree that says environmental engineering. For those who don't know what that is, it's multidisciplinary. We have chemists and physicists and mathematicians and statisticians and microbiologists like myself, all coming together to fix environmental problems. So whether the environmental pollutant or problem comes from the air or in the soil or in the wastewater or drinking water, whether it's a bioaerosol or a chemical or a radiation, whatever the infection, whatever the problem, whatever causes the pollution, they're going to have an environmental engineer fix it. So after we go over all the different possible causes of a zombie apocalypse, you're going to see that the majority of them, the first people that the black helicopters are going to come pick up to save them is the people with environmental engineering degrees. I'm not saying I'm going to be the first guy in a helicopter. I'm not saying I'm not. I'm not saying those helicopters exist. I've said too much already. My point is, they're going to need environmental engineers like myself, and that's the first thing they're going to do here. So, degrees is why our degrees is why we are zombie experts. Now this is Dr. Gibbs. I told him to take a picture of his degree, so he took the picture of his 5 degrees, and it seems like he's showing off a lot. It's even worse now. I called him on a Sunday, and he took this picture right away. So I'm pretty sure he was at home. So I'm pretty sure he was already wearing this, and I think it's what he wears every day. But that's his degrees. Again, he's a dean at the University of Nebraska, and he's going to be at New York here soon. So, now that we know why I'm a zombie expert, I'm going to tell you, in my expert opinions, what are the 6 primary causes of a zombie apocalypse? A lot of these taken from TV shows or movies, and I'll give you an example of each. I have a movie with all of these. Every single one of these are from least likely to most likely, from something I'm not worried about to something that should terrify me and terrify all of you. So we'll start with an ancient civilization or religion. I see a theologist popped in the door there. And also president of our union. So, ancient civilization or religion, a curse, spell, prophecy, or something else that is cast that results in zombies. Examples of this are Evil Dead, Evil Dead 2, and of course the classic Army of Darkness. This is the one time they're not going to invite an environmental engineer to fix the problem. I don't speak Greek, I don't speak Latin or Sanskrit, I can't read hieroglyphics. I'm not going to be a lot of good here. So, because how it spreads is up in mythology, how you prevent is problematic. Again, I'm not going to be a lot of good. So, as far as prevention goes, I can't help you. Basically, you're on your own. I will say one bit of advice. If you ever run into a book that's bound in human skin, don't read it out loud. Avoid the Necronomicon. This is just basic common sense. Next, cosmic radiation. Now, the first zombie movies, like Night of the Living Dead, the bad guy was radiation. Now that makes sense because the biggest thing we were worried about in the 1960s and the 70s was nuclear war, radiation that was going to kill us all. So basically, just like in Night of the Living Dead, a meteor hits the earth or passes by and then reanimates the dead. So Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, the original trilogy, and also the much more horrible Night of the Comet. How many people have seen Night of the Comet? And that one, oh God, that's sad? Yeah. Anyway, that's a really crap fest of a movie. Anyway, the point is, as far as radiation goes, it spreads like any other type of radiation. Cosmic radiation will spread like any other type of radiation. And the 2 factors that determine what dose you're going to get is time and distance. Now, if a meteor is crashing next to you or passing over the Earth, time and distance can't be helped. So there's not a whole heck of a lot you can do to prepare for a zombie invasion that's caused by radiation. But frankly, I'm not that worried about it. First off, you can do some things to prevent radiation. Shielding, lead, that's why you have a lead vest every time you get an x-ray. Sandbags or earth berms or hazmat suits or gas masks. Also, some of you in the military might have had to take potassium iodide tablets to slow the uptake of radioactive ions. But frankly, no radiation. There's not a lot we don't know about radiation. There's only wavelengths, a certain power and a certain wavelength. There's not a lot that we haven't seen as far as radiation, and nothing causes anything near what we would think of as a zombie outbreak or any kind of contagious symptoms like that. So really, it's simply not something you have to worry about, regardless of what the first movie said. So again, if I have to offer any helpful advice at all to you for something that I don't think is going to happen, I will say, just don't watch Night of the Comics, because it's really that bad. So there you go. Okay. Next, neurotoxins. For neurotoxins, we're actually talking about zombies that have actually existed in life. We were talking about zombies from voodoo priests that come from the West African practice of voodoo. During the slave trade, it immigrated to Haiti and other parts of the Caribbean, and it still exists today. Now, voodoo is the culprit of zombies in that first 1932 White Zombie. It's also the culprit of movies like The Serpent and the Rainbow, which is actually based off of a true story of a doctor that went down there and went down to Haiti and immersed himself into voodoo rituals. Anyway, but essentially what a voodoo ritual is certain types of naturally occurring poisons that slow your body so much that you'll be considered dead even to a doctor. Maybe not a sober doctor, but at least a doctor. You'll have your metabolism so slow that you simply won't look like you're alive. Example is tetrodotoxin. That's the poison found in pufferfish. You've heard of pufferfish and how dangerous that is. So that is a neurotoxin that can slow your heartbeat down to next to nothing. And again, this is a real thing. There is Clairvius Narcisse. He was declared dead by two doctors in Haiti and buried in 1962. 18 years later, they find him wandering the street in a daze. He had been basically a zombified zombie, a zombified slave that had to work on a slave sugar plantation for 18 years. So these things can exist. 18 years later, and again, he was giving natural toxins like the tetrodotoxin. I'm not too worried about a zombie outbreak from Haiti. Simply, I'm going to avoid Haiti, and that's a good idea regardless. That's just not the zombie preventative maintenance. I just avoided it altogether. So as long as I'm not going to be there, I'm not too worried about zombies. So anyway, we went over mythology. I'm not worried about that. We went over radiation. Not too worried about that. I'm not really worried about Haiti. So let's move on to things that can get you sick and can get you zombie. First off, most of the TV shows today focus on viruses, viral outbreaks that cause the zombie invasion. And that makes a little bit of sense. You see that in the big blockbuster this year like World War Z. You also see it in things like The Walking Dead. So yes, viruses are a reasonable thing to worry about as far as the zombie apocalypse. And I'll tell you why. For those who don't know what they are, all viruses are parasites. And they're not alive. They are non-living, okay? They're not a cell, they're not even a bacterium that's living. They are non-living parasites. So something that's undead, even microscopic, that can take over you and parasitize you, now that's essentially screams zombie to me, at least a microscopic zombie. So, and there are also diseases right now that are caused by viruses that give you zombie-like characteristics or zombie-like symptoms. For instance, rabies. Rabies was the bad guy in the movie Quarantine, based off of the Spanish movie Wreck, if you've seen that. It was the bad guy in the Community episode where they had the zombie outbreak. That was also a rabies virus. Rabies is actually otherwise known as acute encephalitis. It is zootonic, and what that means is that virus can jump from animal to man. Most of them can't do this. A flu, I always tell my micro students, a flu bug that can get you sick isn't going to get your dog sick, and vice versa. Usually a very narrow range of organisms that they can attack. But this is one of the ones that's zootonic, that can jump from animal to animal, animal to human. And that's why it's so dangerous. It's spread with a bite. That sounds like a zombie. Gives you headache, fever, pain, uncontrolled excitement, mania, irritability, violent salivation. That sounds like a zombie. Somebody with rabies running down the street chasing you. Yeah, I'd be a little bit worried about that. How to prevent things like this. When you get bit, don't handle wild animals or strays. Contact animal control to try to catch it to see if it has rabies, of course. Wash a fresh bite with soap and water. Now, this never works in the zombie movies. You know that washing the bite never with soap and water never works to stave off the zombies. They immediately go for the hatchet and say, we got to remove your arm. We'll talk about how this really isn't that realistic as well. And of course, there are vaccines for viruses. I'll give you a picture for viruses like rabies. I'll give you a picture of this guy right here. that's a guy that has the acute final stages of fatal rabies. He's showing this symptom, a really odd symptom that some of them have, acute hygrophobia, basically fear of drinking water. So if you see him running down the street stationary, you gotta be a little bit scared too. So that's viruses, like rabies. So that's one possibility. I think an even bigger possibility is brain parasites. There are organisms that are in the world today that can cross the blood-brain barrier and control your brain. They control your brain by digging in and basically pulling your string. I use as an example Slither. It's not just a zombie movie, but it's a brilliant movie, so I put it on there. There's zombies, so I put that up there. But in here, the zombies are basically humans that were controlled by parasites that dug into their brain and controlled them. Now, all kinds of organisms do this. This is a fungus right here that I mentioned. Basically infects carpenter ants and makes carpenter ants climb up to the tops of trees or branches, and then as their heads explode because fungi grow so much, the spores will rain down on the insects below. So that's how it basically propagates its own species. You also have a flatworm that goes into snails and turns their eye stalks into pulsating organs that attract birds, so they can also propagate their species. So again, there's a lot of different species. If you look at brain parasites, there's a lot of different organisms that can cause this. But this is not just lower animals like slugs and insects that can get controlled by brain parasites. Humans and other mammals can too. Some of you might have heard, especially those of you that have been pregnant before, heard of Toxoplasma gondii. It's a little protozoan that causes toxoplasmosis. It affects mammals like rats and mice and makes them actually attracted to cat urine. So they're attracted to the one thing that they shouldn't be attracted to, and then, of course, the cat eats it, and again, it'll spread the organism farther. It's probably the biggest disease many of you have not heard of. 25% of the entire population of the Earth right now is infected with toxoplasmosis. Now, it's more for third world countries than now, but I guarantee you, in this room, at least a couple people, look around, look at them, and see who they are. There are a couple people that have toxoplasmosis. Now, most of you aren't going to show any symptoms. It's asymptomatic unless you're immunocompromised, an AIDS patient, severe, if they're very elderly, something like that makes their immune system a little broken down. However, it can cause severe neurodegeneration, including schizophrenia, OCD, ADHD. If you truly see somebody that is completely crazy, especially somebody with a lot of cats, they might be suffering from toxoplasmosis. It's actually dubbed, there's a little guy sucker right there, there's a little protozoan, that's in the bloodstream right here. And it's actually dubbed crazy cat lady syndrome. We've got the unfortunate pleasure of knowing a crazy cat lady who called me up one day and said the government took half of her brain. Not the whole brain, just half of her brain. So again, anybody that's a fan of Simpsons might recognize this one. Can we recognize her from Simpsons? Anybody know her name? I didn't even know her name, and I've seen a lot of Simpsons. Eleanor Abernathy. That's not going to be a trivia question, that's on her. So, but if you want to prevent getting toxoplasmosis, simply don't get a cat, get a dog. It's that simple. And by the way, thank you. And if you're going to get a dog, get a big dog, because in the immortal words of Ron Swanson, any dog under 50 pounds is a cat, and cats are pointless. So, that's my little 2 cents. Now, if I'm in Vegas and I'm talking about what's really going to start the zombie apocalypse, it's the 6th and final one on my list, and that's prions or prions. How would you pronounce it, Dr. Clark? Prion or prion?
50-50.
50-50. Okay, 50-50. I'll say prion. Okay, these are protein parasites. That's it. They're not cells. They're not even pieces of DNA. They're just a molecule. But it's a molecule that can take you over and parasitize you and turn you absolutely crazy. So that's scary. Again, not a cell, not even a virus, just a piece of protein. Just a protein, but that can turn you absolutely scary. Prions are the culprit in my favorite zombie movie of all time, Zombieland. Okay? You've heard of things like mad cow disease, that's a prion. Prions cause neural degeneration, basically break down the brain and destroys tissue in the brain. It's transmitted through ingestion of infected tissue, essentially eating infected brains, or bloodborne, meaning bites can also spread it. So you have a disease right now that can turn you crazy, and you can get it by eating brains or getting bitten by somebody that has it. Now that, again, doesn't that scream zombies? The actual disease is called spongiform encephalitis. If a cow has it, it's called mad cow disease. You've heard of that. If the human has it, it's the same disease, but they call it Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. A different strain of that actually was called Kuru. It's called Kuru. cannibals in Papua New Guinea, because they ate so many brains, developed this neurodegenerative disorder. Again, made it crazy and want more brains. So again, Kuru is about as close to a true zombie infection as you can get on the planet. Also, prions are the possible, if not the probable cause of diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and Lou Gehrig's disease. So for things that most people haven't heard of, they're pretty dangerous little suckers. And again, not a cell, not a bacterium, not even a little protozoan or a worm. It's just a molecule. Of course, you're surrounded by molecules. This molecule can kill you in so many horrible ways. Creutzfeldt-Jacobs disease symptoms: changes in gait, walking, hallucinations, lack of coordination, muscle twitches, rapidly developing delirium or dementia, anger, stress, etc., etc. Also, no known treatment or vaccine is available. So this, again, is as close to a zombie apocalypse organism as I could possibly think about. Basically, here's what it is. Again, it's just a molecule. It's a diagram of what it would look like. Here's a brain showing the spongy, destroyed tissue inside of the brain. It actually shows the shrinkage of the brain that occurs after someone has gotten full-blown Creutzfeldt-Jacobs disease. Okay, so this is a pretty nasty little sucker here. So again, I'm not too worried about ancient mythology. I'm not worried about radiation. I wouldn't be too worried about neurotoxins. And viruses and blood-brain parasites can be a problem, but if you don't mind wanting to get my bet, I think it's going to be on prions. Now, as far as prevention, follow blood-borne pathogen protocols. Myself and any biology professor here have to undergo blood-borne pathogen training to be able to teach. We all deal with pathogens all the time in micro and some of the health classes. So we've all had to do blood-borne pathogen training. Also, of course, don't eat brains. Also a good idea. So now we know what's going to cause the zombie apocalypse. Whether it's a virus or a protozoan parasite or possibly a prion, we want to know what can cause it. But do we really need to prepare? Do we take this seriously? The Assistant Surgeon General thinks so. Directly quoted: "If you are generally well equipped to deal with a zombie apocalypse, you will be prepared for a hurricane, pandemic, earthquake, or terrorist attack." Okay, that's directly off the government website. They want you to prepare. Scientists want you to prepare. Here is a presentation. Here's a peer-reviewed article, the first one of its kind to deal with epidemiology of a zombie outbreak. Those of you who don't know what epidemiology is, it's basically the study of diseases, how they're spread, the rate of their spread, etc. So, Muntz et al. Essentially, if you can't read that, that's okay. The blue line is us, and the red line is zombies, okay? So they put in all the parameters of the typical zombie movie and saw just how well we would fare. And when they plugged it in, boom, it takes us about 4.5 days before the entire planet's wiped out by zombies. So that's not good, okay? So, and then they change it up a little bit. Say, well, okay, well, maybe, let's say maybe MHC in World War Z took about 10 seconds. Not, great book. Okay, maybe. I'll say that. Okay. Took about 10 seconds. Was it 10 seconds for a zombie to change? That's ridiculous. Okay? Yeah.
From what I've seen from the movie, and if you listen carefully to the lines, it's more like 12 seconds.
Oh, there you go.
They actually are
okay.
counting.
Still ridiculous. And, all right. Not a question, so I won't be able to. Anyway, but the point is, nothing works that fast. So let's say, they put that back in, let's say there's a 24-hour period between the time you got bit and the time you got infected. Well, let's see if we survive that. That sounds good. No, it takes us twice as long to die. It takes us 8 days to die, but still we're wiped out. That's not good. That's what the scientists said. So they said, okay, well, what if we simply quarantine the sick before they get anybody else sick? That'll work, right? No, we're dead in 8 days. That sucks too. Okay? Now, what if right away, within days, we discover a vaccine, a cure for viruses? That'll work, right? It actually will work for 1 out of 100 of us. So we will survive at least 1 out of 100 people on the planet. So 99% eradication of all humans, but heck, at least we're around. And anybody in this class might be a little bit better numbers as far as being around here. So again, scientists think it's important because if it ever did happen, no, that doesn't look too good for humans, I'll tell you that. If anybody wants that, I printed off about, on the way out, I printed off about 10 different copies or so of this. It's from Infectious Disease Modeling Research Progress, I think 2009. So you can see this if you want. If you grab them, I can send you the link to them. So scientists think we need to study. Your own CDC and NIOSH think we need to study. Here's Here is a poster from the CDC. Get a kit, make a plan, and be prepared, directly from the CDC website. Now, once you click on this, it'll talk a little bit about zombies, but then it will actually link you to other emergency preparedness like tornadoes, hurricanes, etc. But we are going to talk extensively about the CDC. So again, the CDC itself makes you thinks you should prepare for zombies. So once again, get a kit, make a plan, and be prepared. First off, the kit. That might be a little too small for you to read. That's okay. I printed out plenty. I don't know if I have enough for everybody, but I printed out plenty for at least most of you. This is a brochure with on the front. It's got my information on the back if you wanted to contact me for zombie-related questions. And also on the inside, I gave you this list here. Okay, tools and supplies: utility knife, duct tape, flashlight, etc. Can opener. That's a pot, not pot. A pot. Sanitation and hygiene, soap and bleach, clothing and bedding, important documents, miscellaneous. Now this kit does not just work for zombies. This works for both shelter in place when your house needs to be your barricade, or for what we call the bug out bag when you need to get out. So any of these, so this kit will work both the shelter in place and the bug out bag. This is your emergency preparedness kit for a fire, or a flood, or a hurricane, or a tornado, or a terrorist attack, or of course the inevitable zombie attack. Okay, and again, I have plenty of these for anybody that wants them. You can come up here afterwards, and I will give it to you. We don't have weapons on here. This isn't quite this kind of talk, but if you want to talk blunt versus edged weapons, and different calibers of weapons, etc., by all means, we can talk in the question and answer session. I got at least 10 minutes for that. Anyway, so that's the kit, and you don't have to memorize that. I have it here for you, and that will be the kit for any emergency preparedness. Make a plan. The first thing they say to do is contact your American Red Cross. I did that. Call your American Red Cross and tell them you're prepared for the zombie invasion. They don't laugh at you. You'd think they laugh at you. They don't. They tell you all about their preparedness. I ask them what they do prepare for. Their main thing, as you imagine here, are fires and floods and tornadoes, but also earthquakes, terrorist attacks, and of course zombies. They will not laugh at you when you say you're preparing for the zombie invasion. So make a disaster plan. Pick a meeting place for your family if you can't get to your home, one close and one far. Identify your emergency contacts. Make sure there's at least emergency contacts out of state. If there's a localized problem or outbreak, you can talk to somebody out of state to let them know you're okay. Plan evacuation routes. Plan multiple evacuation routes to and from your home to safer locations. Don't assume you can jump right on 75. It's probably where a lot of people are going to save your questions, if you don't mind.
Have you ever thought about what kind of...
Save your questions. You mind?
Oh, all right.
All right. I got plenty of time. Okay. Some people got to get out of here. Sorry. Anyway, complete the checklist. Find the safe spots in your home for each type of disaster. Do your kids know where to go in case of a flood or a fire, etc.? Do they know where the smoke alarms are? Also, I called my insurance agent and I asked him if he covered insurance on me. And what'd you say? What did you say? You said we don't cover. What did you say? We don't cover made-up fictional monsters. And he's on the anti-zombie militia. Also, I found out that he doesn't cover earthquakes. Right? That's a little crap. Insurance isn't. You don't cover earthquakes, do you? That's extra, right?
Yeah.
No, you add it. How much is that?
You can buy something.
A little bit.
No? Well, okay. So anyway, but check to see if you have adequate insurance coverage for all types of scenarios. And also practice your plan. It's not a good idea. It's not just a good plan unless you practice it over and over again. Don't just assume if you have this, you can be prepared. My brother and my father here, they have more